And welcome back to this week's What If. I have the What If and the Who and When will be up in a little bit. I work ran late yesterday, so I couldn't fully write out the Who would win, but I got sitting right here actually. But we're talking about the What If right now, and this comes from Emperor Vladius, who asked the question: what if Danny Phantom, or Danny Fenton, depending how you want to go, which identity, joined Vlad Plasmus? Now, when we look at this, we have to look at it in two different scenarios. What if he joined willingly, like actually turned against his father, his family, his friends? Well, maybe not his friend. What if he basically actually legitimately joined him? Or what if it's joining him as a ploy to like learn how to control his abilities and powers and all that? Excuse me. Still got crap in my throat from that cold. It's annoying. So let's look at it first off from the standpoint of if he joined him legitimately. Now, if he joined him legitimately, like, I agree with you, Vlad, I'm going to join your side, it wouldn't be their initial confrontation where he joined him. I still see that going exactly the way it planned. The way I see this happening, actually, is not the second time they met. I'm trying to remember exactly when was the second time they met. Was the cab? It's been a while. I love Danny Phantom, but it's been a while. I should really pick that up on DVD if I can find it too. I loved that. That was one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows or cartoons anyway. And then they like the early seasons of Fairly Odd Parents and a couple other things. That's a different video entirely. But let's just whenever the cabin incident happened, that's when they go and they meet Vlad Plasmus again, and seeing what Vlad's accomplished and all that, and the reason I say this scenario over the other one is, one, it's their first confrontation. It's not going to be join me, Danny, and together we will rule the world as father and son. Even though I'm doing the Emperor, whatever. Join me, Daniel. But I say that because the scenario is key in this, because it's not only Danny who would actually possibly join Vlad. It would also be Maddie who would actually be seduced by and actually start to fall for Vlad. The way I see this happening is, Vlad, instead of, just being Vlad and fucking it up, would actually start to point out the faults of Jack over the years, what he did to him. Maybe he would be like, Maddie, I want to reveal something. That's it. Keep an open mind. And then reveals his ghost form to Maddie and say, look, Maddie, look what Jack made me. Look what I have become. This is incredible and all that. I know. And I've done things I'm not proud of, but I've never stopped loving you, Maddie, and all that stuff. And she sees what realizing that Jack did this to him. While it's impressive from a scientific standpoint, she might in a legitimate scenario, she'd probably question, why didn't he just tell Jack what happened and we could maybe cure him or whatever. Instead, she sees what's like, I don't, and then she has time to go think, and then you see Jack and or Danny and Vlad maybe talking a bit. It's like, and maybe Danny's starting to see a bit of where Vlad came, because when you really get behind there, Vlad's really didn't start out as an actual evil guy. He just became that way when he got a lot of power, and then it corrupted him. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the phrase goes. Now, obviously, ghost powers aren't absolute, but you get the gist. So maybe Danny actually starts to see the sympathetic side of Vlad, a man who loved a woman. And, he got that love got taken with him, along with a lot of years in the hospital from his father. And Danny does see that, this really was all his dad's fault. Their obsession with ghosts, his lack of lack of scientific knowledge. Even though Jack's straight B minuses, mind you, Jack's actually still very intelligent. He's just kind of a simple dolt at points. It comes at, and just you see, and Danny and maybe Maddie have a talk, and then Maddie comes in. It's like, Jack, could you leave us alone for a second? And they sit and they have a talk, and insert your adult-rated fan fiction here. Her and Vlad, kiss, and then things might pursue. And then after that happens, like, Jack, Danny, I think I might be leaving your father or something like that. It's like, I don't know, Jack. This is all your father's fault. This is all Jack's fault. Blah blah blah. And then maybe Danny eventually is like, I think you're right, Mom, and it is. And then they hug, and then Vlad just suddenly. This actually, I believe, also would alleviate a lot of Vlad's evil tendencies, because he actually not only does he get the woman he always wanted, he gets the son he always wanted. It's like, oh my God, it's like I got a family now, and with money and resources, Which, by the way, that's a different. Quick question: how do Jack and Maddie make money? How do they support that entire household? I mean, they've clearly got money because they clearly are inventing loads of shit and creating loads of shit. Where the investments? They do favors for people with a lot of money. Fuck all if I know. So I do believe now during that point, and again, it's been a long time since I watched, so I'm gonna have to remember a little bit how the season goes. I do believe that Vlad, that his friends turn against him because of his choice to join them, and Danny comes a bit of a recluse from them. Now that being said, I still think Danny does fight all the ghosts he fights. I don't think Vlad actually convinces him otherwise, because again, I do think that because not all the ghosts that Danny fights are sent by Vlad. Some of them were, but not all of them. But I think I think Danny would also reveal to his mother that he too is a ghost if Vlad did that, and it's like they realize like, what did I do to my son, and all that stuff, but they work on it and they get through it, and then Danny Phantom pretty much stays Danny Phantom. He still fights the ghosts, all that, except now Sam and Tucker are out of his life. His father and sister are probably out of his life. Well, maybe not completely out of his life, but so. And then, maybe, I mean, don't think Vlad, goes out and fights ghosts generally himself either. Maybe he joins his stepson, on a couple missions to fight some really bad ghosts and powerful ghosts that even him and Danny alone couldn't maybe take on. Some father-son bonding. Maybe the three of them go out and fight ghosts together. They're the adventures of Vlad, Maddie, and Danny. You could see that happening. So, honestly, assuming a scenario where he joined Vlad happened, I see that episode where that happened being the likely one, and assuming it all came together, that is the most likely scenario. Now, like Valerie, I don't think Valerie was hunting ghosts at that point. She might have been. Again, it's been a long time since I've watched the series. But let's go with the other assumption. Let's say that Danny joins Vlad, but only in the pursuit of gaining enough power that he could control, or gaining enough experience, abilities, power to, stop Vlad at a future date and enjoy his friends. So I am going to say this happens actually around the first time they meet. Excuse me. Now, Danny's not a huge... Danny's a more common sense kind of guy than a book smart kind of guy. Even then, his teenage, hormones and intuitions will get the better of him. But he's more common sense smart than book smart. So he's not, and he can think of a decent strategy on the fly if he has to. Now that being said, let's say as join me, Danny, and then the first time they fight, no, Danny's just get his ass kicked. The second time they fight, Danny feels a little better, forms a shield, and then realizes, yes, I'll join you, but only if you leave my parents out of this, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yes. It's like, well, soon you'll join me too, Daniel. It's like, and Dad's just like, yeah, huh? Yep. And Vlad just so full, and so I was like, whatever. So, Danny's still going to, at the time, be living with his parents, but he'll go to Vlad's every now and then, or when he needs to train. Go through the ghost portal, goes down, Vlad probably has a chart between the portals or something like that, whatever. So Danny is going to basically be training with Vlad as often as he can, improving his abilities, expanding his abilities. So how long does he do this for? Because this was season 1. I'd say by the end of season 1, because we don't know how much time usually passes between the episodes, days, weeks, whatever. We do know that Danny's 14 or 15 by the series starts and around 16 when it ends, so at least 2 years have passed throughout the entire series. But with that said, around the time, let's say it's around the end of the first season, whenever that happened to have been, and it's like, now, Daniel, we shall destroy your father and bring your mother to our side, and it should be glorious. It will be one big happy family. And then Danny just blasts him like, yeah, no. So, and I was like, you really think I've had been denouncing my parents the whole time? I've just been using you, man. It's like, and you were just so blinded by your own ego. I don't know if Danny used those exact words, but it's like, you lit a light. It's like, this. How dare you? Danny's he's gonna throw an Earn's Blast, but Danny will block it from the shield that he learned to perfect and all that stuff. So now Vlad's obviously a guy who how... That's a good question. Do we know how old Vlad Plasmus, as a matter of fact, him and Jack and Maddie are? I don't see that. Jack might be in his 40s, given the gray streaks of hair. Maddie doesn't look to be any more than her late 30s. And Vlad only has the white hair because he got hit by the blast. So his age is difficult to tell. I imagine though he can't be much older than Jack because they are all college buddies. And just because you're in college doesn't mean you're the exact same age. But I imagine he's got to be in the same age range as Jack. So let's just conservatively say that he's 40. Let's just say that. I think Danny even made a mention in that episode about the in the cabin where it's like as a man approaching his 40s, I think he said. So maybe he's in his 30s. And let's go his late 30s. So assuming he works out at all, he's roughly in the male area of peak for his physicality. Now, I don't think he's like working out to his peak performance, but he looks like he's a fairly athletic man. He's got a decent build, all that stuff. So that being said, from a physical standpoint, their fight wouldn't be in Danny's favor. I'm sure Danny would probably be working out too, and for like maybe like a 14, 15-year-old, he'd be in decent shape at that point. Not like oh god, what's the name of the bully? The blonde idiot, the blonde jock. Now he's not a jock build, but because he's a lot shorter and scrawnier. But he'd probably have more like my build, where he's a lot more lean, but got definition to him. But Danny also has dexterity. So from a physical fight, Vlad is going to have probably the age from the hand-to-hand experience, even with training Danny, and the physical experience in terms of strength and durability. But Danny's going to be able to be faster and more agile than him. So the fight's going to probably break down, and Vlad's going to be like, doing everything he can, maybe multiplying himself, but Danny's going to multiply himself. It's going to be a lot of back and forth. The difference is going to be that Danny has something more to fight for, is like go back to his family and protect the town and his friends and all that. Also, Danny's able to avoid the hits a lot easier than Vlad is, being the fact that Vlad is an adult man who is just blinded by his own rage in this scenario. So I imagine that Danny's going to eventually not kill him, obviously, because Danny doesn't kill people, really. But, just mega blast and then, defending his parents. Maybe defending the right to save his family. Maybe he actually unlocks his sonic whale, ghostly whale, too, at that point. So... what's this? Yeah, I didn't know I'd been practicing, or maybe he's been practicing it, found out, and been practicing on his own. So he didn't know I had this ability, I mean, did you? And then maybe has an energy blast in there too, just, and then just an energy blast, whale attack combo, just blasting it, Vlad, just knock him. He's just saying, it's like, yeah, and it's like that's what you get for messing with my family, or something like that. It's like I don't know. I'm not writing dialogue for these things. So, yeah, I do fully see Vlad. I do see Danny actually successfully using Vlad to improve his abilities, because Vlad just is all about himself, all about his ego, and Danny's not. So, I mean, Danny does have egotistical moments, but not in the same way. So, yeah, that's and then, the remainder of the series would go on as normal, but with Danny taking care of a lot of the ghosts a lot easier, because he's just got more perfected abilities. So yeah, I mean, what if Danny joined Vlad? Honestly, Danny himself wouldn't change that much. He'd still be fighting ghosts. If he joined them to just use them, he'd eventually end up beating Vlad. He'd use them to his advantage. If he joined them legitimately, I think him and his mother would. And I think Vlad would actually tone down the evil a lot, because he finally gets, something he wanted in life, and then it becomes the new adventures of Danny Phantom. But unfortunately, Jack and wow, I can't remember his sister's name. But Jack and his sister are now, because of the divorce, they're living on their own. And Sam and Tucker are kind of out of the fray and whatnot. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But, these things happen in life. What are you going to do? So, yeah, that was What If Danny Phantom had joined Vlad Plasmus. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who to win, Star Wars, superhero, what if, magic. Anything I do on the channel, put in the comments below. Let me know. I'll do a review of it at some point. I got my what if in a little bit. And yeah, I'll see you in a little while. And I don't know, honestly, what the movie's going to be tonight. It's going to all depend on when I get out of the theater. So yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.